and welcome to episode 45 of the Mr. Douglass Sports Show. I am your host as always, Corey Douglas, and there's a lot to get to on this episode. I'm going to get into some Mavs talk, reviewing the past 4 games, 2 wins, 2 losses. I'm also going to dive into some news around the NFL a little bit later in the program. But today I'm going to get started with Mark Cuban comments on the Luka-KP relationship and compares it to the Dirk Jason Terry relationship when they first acquired Jason Terry back in, I believe, in 04-05 after the departure of Steve Nash. So he goes on local radio this week, and he has 2 quotes that kind of stuck out to me when comparing it to the Dirk Jason Terry relationship. So the first quote is, quote, "They weren't best friends at the beginning, but they grew to like each other and grew to be great friends, and that's just part of the process when you've got 2 young kids who are growing up," end quote. So, as you know, I've spent a lot of time diving into this Luka-KP dynamic because it's important only for the Mavs' future, but it's also really obvious that these 2 don't seem like the greatest of friends, which I'm not saying they have to be great friends, but they have to be able to coexist on the court. And I've seen plenty of examples this season where they are not necessarily doing as such. So when I think back to the Dirk Jason Terry relationship, like I mentioned, it was right after the divorce of Dirk's great friend Steve Nash. They're still friends to this day. Steve Nash asked Dirk to be on the Nets coaching staff this year. Dirk politely declined because his heart is in Dallas. But when Jason Terry came in, it wasn't smooth sailing. Now, I can't sit here and tell you I remember instances on the court where Dirk and Jason Terry kind of looked each other off or became frustrated on the court. And I can't tell you I remember a situation where off the court, they had any run-ins or difficulties getting along. But I do know that Jason Terry, they went through some rough times together. When you talk about 2 finals appearances, 1 finals appearance where they lost to the Miami Heat in 2006. You look back, in previous years before they got to that point where they could get to the finals and winning 50-plus games in a season. Jason Terry made some mistakes that at the end frustrated Dirk. But it was all related to the basketball, and then they found a way to kind of get it together. I'm sitting here today telling you that I don't see kind of Luka and KP going through that steps. But Mark Cuban did say they're young guys. But I want to get to the second quote. Mark Cuban says, quote, "It took forever before Dirk and Jet did anything off the court together. A long time. Yeah, I mean, Luka and KP get along fine. It's just that they're different people. They like to do different things." Mark Cuban also said he's not going to sit here and pretend that there hasn't been dust-ups because there has been. Now, to what degree, he didn't really specify into that point. And obviously, you're not going to be best friends with everybody on the court, so I understand that aspect. But I think it's important that they figure things out together because they are young guys. But, at the end of the day, it's all about winning. And I think there's situations where KP gets frustrated because he doesn't get the ball in certain situations. And I think he gets frustrated with the amount that Luka has the ball. And then on the flip side, I think Luka gets frustrated with KP not always being there. And then just some of the body language situations. And then, I'm not ruling out something happening over the offseason that, kind of put these guys kind of further apart. Now, there's been multiple examples throughout, NBA history where 2 of your best players don't get along for the best of friends and they are able to win championships. The 2 that jump out just immediately are Kobe and Shaq, and then Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. So I'm not sitting here today saying that they can't make this work, but I'm sitting here today telling you that I don't think long-term, especially with KP's injury history, I don't see him long for Dallas. And I'm hoping Mark Cuban, just based off his quotes, because he did put a positive spin on this, and I'm hoping behind closed doors it's not as positive. I'm hoping they're having these important conversations, because if you keep, kind of pushing things under the rug and just acting like it doesn't exist, that's where more issues lie. And then, a minor issue, can become a major issue down the line. So I want to get into definitely the last 4 games that the Mavericks have played. They will go 2-2. And the first game up was, of course, after we recorded last Friday. The Mavs hosted the New York Knicks, and this was a game that the Mavs lost. So, like I said, the Mavs lost to the Knicks last Friday at home, 117 to 109. And this game was all about, on the Knicks side, it was all about Julius Randle. He plays 40 minutes, has 44 points, 16 of 29 shooting from the field, 6 of 11 from 3. He has 10 rebounds, 7 assists, 1 steal, and a block. And to me, it was very, 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 very clear that Julius Randle had this game scheduled or circled on his calendar or whatever. When they played a couple of weeks ago, he went 5 of 20 from the field, and it caused a lot of people to hype up Maxi Kleber's defense because Maxi Kleber, you know, he is capable of having these type of defensive performances, but I also think it was Julius Randle just having a bad night. Well, after the game, Julius Randle went on Instagram and posted a story of a clip of a Mavs analyst talking about the great defense that Maxi showed. And he then posted a next story saying, "Peace Petty." And then the third story was the Michael Jordan meme from The Last Dance about where he took different things personally to motivate himself. And it was very clear, like I said, that Julius Randle was motivated in this game. He always plays well in Dallas. He's from the area. And like I said, he took this personally, and he led the Knicks to a win. And in this game, it was another performance where KP against the Knicks just does not perform well. I would be okay if KP never played in a Mavs jersey again against the Knicks because he just is not built for it. He ends up with 23 points, but it's 8 of 20 shooting. He did add 12 rebounds, so he had the double-double. Luka adds 22 points, 8 rebounds, 19 assists. Tim Hardaway Jr., 16 points. Brunson had a terrible night, going 6 points, 3 of 9 shooting. He was a minus 20 on the night as far as plus-minus goes. And I'm going to be honest with you, so the start of the fourth quarter, they had a lineup of Jalen Brunson, Tim Hardaway Jr., J.J. Redick, Kleber, and Powell. And the Knicks kind of took control of that game at that point, and it ultimately led to the Mavs' loss. So on Sunday night, the Mavs hosted the Sacramento Kings. This was a game where Sacramento was coming in having lost 9 games in a row. It was a game where initially I'm thinking, okay, the Mavs might be able to come in and, you know, impose their will. The Sacramento is not a great defensive team, so I'm thinking the Mavs will be able to get their offense on track. Well, that didn't happen. They came out lifeless. They had no energy. They looked tired for the majority of the game. And it was just a terrible loss. They lose 121 to 107. They give up 45 points in the second quarter to the Sacramento Kings. When you look at the box score, you have De'Aaron Fox, 30 points, 12 assists. You have Harrison Barnes, who started 5 of 5 from 3. He finishes the game with 24 points, 5 rebounds. You have Whiteside, who came in and really set the tone early. He finishes the game with 12 points, 10 rebounds, 5 offensive rebounds, which is crucial. When you talk about the Mavs not being able to secure defensive possessions by grabbing the defensive rebound. And then you had Terrence Davis coming off the bench, 23 points, 5 of 5 from 3. And I just want to touch on this just real quick because this was a game where Terrence Davis should not have been allowed to do this. In the 2 games that he's played since, he has a combined 6 points and 2 of 6 from the field, including a game where he did not score at all. So this was it wasn't a good performance from the Mavs outside of Luka, who finished the game with 37 points, 14 of 27 from the field. And it took him 22 points in the fourth quarter to come up with that stat line because he looked lifeless for a lot of the game. KP, again, just a terrible shooting night, 3 of 14 from the field, 9 points, 11 rebounds. Jalen Brunson bounced back from his terrible performance against the Knicks with 20 points off the bench. Tim Hardaway Jr. once again, 2 of 10 from the field, 8 points, 2 of 8 from 3. And I said this last week, and it continues to be an issue for the Mavericks is outside of Luka and then KP when he's playing well, or even if he doesn't play well, this team is just not deep enough with enough talented players to offset Luka or KP not playing well. Because when you look at the next three best players on the team, or supposed to be three best players, you're talking about Jalen Brunson, Tim Hardaway Jr., and a combination of Maxi Kleber, Dorian Finney-Smith, Josh Richardson. It's not a good enough roster. When I look at Josh Richardson in this game, he plays 27 minutes, 7 points, 3 of 9 from the field, and he has a player option for this upcoming offseason. And he's most likely going to pick that up because he is a bad basketball player that is not going to be or not going to get what he's currently making on the open market. So the Mavs, they have to find a way to get rid of Josh Richardson on this team. There's been a lot of talk about the Seth Curry for Josh Richardson trade as far as who won, who lost the trade. And honestly, I got frustrated with Seth Curry because as great of a shooter as he is so hesitant to actually pull the trigger and shoot the basketball. So I was okay with the trade at the time. I'm not going to pretend I wasn't, but this trade did not go as planned for the Mavericks. What they thought they were picking up with on defense, they lost even more on offense. And one of the biggest things that I've noticed throughout the season is Josh Richardson is not even guarding the opposing team's best guards. So in the Sacramento game, De'Aaron Fox is super quick, super explosive, and he has the ability to go to 0 to 100 just real quick. And they continually put Dorian Finney-Smith on these smaller, quicker guards, and I don't understand it, and it's cost the Mavs some opportunities to, slow down opponents. Josh Richardson was brought here for a reason. He needs to be on these quicker, explosive guards, but the Mavs' philosophy has not been that, and it's led to some big performances from opposing guards. All right, so next game up is the Mavs. We're still at home on Wednesday night after 2 days off, taking on the Detroit Pistons. And this was a game where the Detroit Pistons were coming in as the worst team in the East. It was a game that the Mavs had to have. They could not afford to lose another home game to another team under 500 who was not playing good basketball. And they come out and give up 38 points in the first quarter immediately, so they had another sluggish start. However, Rick Carlisle did make some adjustments going into the game. He changes the starting lineup by putting Dwight Powell for Maxi Kleber. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, Dwight Powell made all the difference because, like I said, they gave up 38 points in the first quarter. But I think he brought a different kind of energy to the game because one thing that is for sure with Dwight Powell is the dude will go out there and he will play his tail off, and he'll go out there and he won't grab a whole lot of rebounds. He'll flail out a lot of rebounds, but his energy and just effort alone, and his teammates love him. So I wasn't mad at that move because they had to do something in that situation based off just how poorly they had been playing. I would have preferred, Jalen Brunson, Tim Hardaway Jr., or even J.J. Redick going into the starting lineup, but Dwight Powell did. And the Mavs won 127-117 after getting together midway through the second quarter. Now, let's go ahead and just dive into the box score here. On Detroit's side, you had their leading scorers, Jeremy Grant, 26 points. Corey Joseph went off for 24 points. Plumlee added a double-double, 13 rebounds, 13 points, 16 rebounds, 7 assists. So an all-around performance for him. And then on the Maverick side, you have Luka, who has 30 points, 10 rebounds, and 9 assists. So 1 assist shy of the triple-double. KP added in 19 points on 6 of 13 shooting. Jalen Brunson added 20 points off the bench, including 18 first-half points. Tim Hardaway Jr. in 25 minutes had 15 points. So, like I said, it was a much-needed win for the Mavericks to, stop the slide and kind of right the path that they're on as far as trying to get out of that play-in situation. Like I said last week, I'm not really too stressed about the play-in situation, but it would be nice to get out of it, because I was looking at the schedule this week, and the play-in games are going to be done around the 16th and 17th of May. And then you'll have the actual playoffs starting on the 22nd or 23rd, just depending on what day you fall in for the matchups. So that is an extra week where Luka can get an extra week of rest, and they can really gear up and get ready for whoever the opponent is going to be. At this point, it looks like it could be either, or most likely it's going to be, the Los Angeles Clippers for a rematch, or the Phoenix Suns. When I get a standings recap a little bit later in the program, I will let you know who I prefer to play out of those two situations if they were to come to fruition. But back to the Mavericks beating the Pistons. With this win, they pulled into half a game of the Portland Trailblazers, who have been playing just as poorly as the Mavs, if not worse, and their schedule is not easing up at all. So heading into Thursday night's matchup, it was the Mavs-Lakers. Anthony Davis returns. He only plays 17 minutes, and the Mavs come away again with a much-needed win. They win 115-110. Anthony Davis, in his 17 minutes of action, goes 2 of 10 from the field, scores 4 points, 4 rebounds. He adds a steal and a block in there. So obviously he's still working off the rust, and he'll get back into the swing of things here as he plays more games. Hopefully it's not on Saturday night when the Mavericks and Lakers rematch. But some takeaways that I have from this game. First off, I just got to get it kicked off with just shout out Willie Cauley-Stein. His energy and his presence was definitely felt on Thursday night against the Lakers. He plays 31 minutes. He has 11 points, 8 rebounds, 2 blocks and a steal. And this is in the absence of Maxi Kleber, who injured his back in Wednesday night's game against the Pistons, so he was out. They're hoping he can play on Saturday night, but Willie Cauley-Stein, you could just tell his energy was much needed, and honestly, I would not be surprised to see him start on Saturday night against the Lakers, just based off that performance alone, and because the inevitable KP injury happens. They believe it's not as serious, but with KP and injuries, you just can never be too, cautious when it comes to that. So, hopefully he gets back sooner rather than later. But yeah, he does leave that game. Luka plays 36 minutes, has 30 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists. He has 3 steals. Porzingis, before he got hurt, added in 19 points. Josh Richardson, Dwight Powell, Finney Smith, and then Cauley-Stein, like I previously mentioned, all in double figures. JJ Redick played 10 minutes, had 7 points on 3 of 5 shooting. And I have to say, I watched this game, and I don't know how many times I counted where I'm just like, pass the ball to JJ. This dude is wide open from 3. He has 15 years of doing this and shooting at a high elite level in the NBA. And I know one time in particular really stuck out to me, and this was Finney Smith wide open for 3, but then he has JJ Redick over to, I believe, his right. He's even more open for 3, and I don't care if Dorian Finney-Smith, he's playing tremendous basketball right now. He's shooting 43% from 3 in the month of April, but I don't care if he's made 15 in a row. In that situation, he needs to be passing the ball to JJ Redick, because JJ Redick is JJ Redick. I mean, it's enough said on that. But I definitely want JJ Redick to get more shots, and I want him to get more minutes alongside Luka, because I don't understand what Carlisle's doing in certain situations where he's having Redick play. He's having Redick play outside of the Luka minutes. That does not make sense to me, and I hope that changes going forward to end the season. So that concludes the weekly recap of the Mavs. They go 2-2, and they actually pull to being tied with the Portland Trailblazers. So right now, the Western Conference looks like Utah, the number 1 seed, 2 games ahead of Phoenix. Phoenix number 2, the Clippers number 3, 1 game behind Phoenix. Denver is number 4. The Lakers are at number 5. Portland is tied for 6th with Dallas, but Portland has a tiebreaker over Dallas. And then Memphis currently sits at 8, half a game up on San Antonio, and a full game up on Golden State. And that is the top 10 seeds in the Western Conference. And then when you go over to the Eastern Conference, you have Philadelphia and Brooklyn tied at 39 and 20 for the number 1 seed. Then you have Milwaukee at the 3 seed, 36 and 22. Then the Knicks follow at number 4, and they've won 8 games in a row. So they are playing some outstanding basketball. Atlanta is at number 5. Boston is starting to get it together. They currently sit at number 6. The Miami Heat are one of the weirdest teams that I've been following this season. It just, one game they're beating a Brooklyn team or like a Milwaukee type team, and then the next night they're losing to a Minnesota type team. So I'm not really sure what's going on there, but they have a lot to figure out. They currently sit at 7. And then you have the Charlotte Hornets, who have just dealt with a slew of injuries, sitting at number 8. And then at 9 and 10, you have Indiana and Washington. And you have Chicago and Toronto half a game behind Washington for the 10th seed. So there's a lot to figure out over these next couple of weeks. These teams are going to be playing a lot of games in a hurry. Most teams have around 14 to 15 games left. And then the playoffs start, and the quest for a championship begins. Those are the current standings. Like I said, we're coming down the home stretch of the NBA season, this shortened season. Only 72 games this year. So these teams are starting to gear up and get ready for what they hope is a playoff run. And I touched on this earlier as far as as the Mavericks are looking like they're going to be taking on the Phoenix Suns or the Los Angeles Clippers. So the question is, who would you prefer as a Mavs watcher, as a Mavs supporter? And I'm just going to start by saying I don't like the matchup with either of these teams. I don't think the Mavs would beat either of these teams in the playoffs. I think I've seen a lot of people say that the Phoenix Suns would be a better matchup just because of the whole playoff experience thing. And I'm not necessarily on board with that because the Mavs don't have a whole lot of experience in the playoffs either. And I think that the Mavs experienced the playoffs in the bubble last year, but it's a whole different ballgame when you're talking about starting in an opposing team's arena, going back home for 2, then alternating games 5, 6, and 7, and then playing game 7 or potential game 7 in the opposing team's arena. Is a whole different perspective and ball game. So the Mavs, the experience thing, I throw that out the window. And then when you look at the Clippers, of course you have Kawhi and Paul George, and now they added Rondo, and Zubac always eats the Mavs alive. And then you have Serge Ibaka. So they have a lot of talent. So if I was forced to choose between the Clippers and the Suns on who I want the Mavs to face, I would take the Phoenix Suns. But it's only because I don't think I could withstand losing another series to the Clippers. With guys like Patrick Beverley and just some of the clowns they have, Marcus Morris. I don't want to see the Mavs lose to them again, especially, potentially losing, in your home arena and just all the stuff that would bring as a fan. So if you had to ask me, I'm going to choose the Phoenix Suns because they haven't been around long enough to be as arrogant as the Clippers come across, even though the Clippers really haven't won anything outside of Serge Ibaka and Kawhi, who didn't even do it with the Clippers. That's all I have for the NBA today. I want to go ahead and touch on some NFL, just quick hitters real quick, on some stuff that's going on in the NFL as we head towards the draft. Of course, the draft starts next Thursday night. The Cowboys do pick at number 10. I'm planning to release kind of like a draft preview of at least the first round early next week, so stay tuned for that. But let's go ahead and go around the NFL real quick. First up is Alex Smith announces his retirement, and to me this is an unbelievable achievement for Alex Smith to be able to go out on his own terms now. Obviously he had the catastrophic leg injury a couple years back, had to undergo over 20 plus surgeries, And to me, this is just a story of just perseverance, the ability to never give up, to stick with it, and to never be told that you aren't able to accomplish something that you set your mind out to do. So for him to come back and play just even one NFL snap this past season, let alone go out there and play multiple games and win games for a division winner, is just completely remarkable. A remarkable accomplishment for him and his family, and now he can go off and do just great things off the field while maintaining health, which is the most important, as he has his wife and kids at home. So I'm sure they're going to be really excited for him to be done with the football part of his life. So salute to Alex Smith. Second up, the NFL announced that the NFL schedule will be announced on May 12th. And this is the first season where teams will play 17 games. So I'm interested to see kind of how they, come up with the way they maneuver the schedule. And, obviously the most exciting part is to see who your team plays week 1. So I'll have that for you on the Mr. Douglass Sports Show whenever that drops. And then lastly, we talked about this a little bit a few weeks back when the NFL was first proposed of players being able to change their jersey numbers. Well, the owners have now approved that rule. So now quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, cornerbacks, and linebackers will be able to wear any number from 1 to 49. And then the linebackers will still be able to wear numbers in the 50s from 50 to 59. And then wide receivers will also be able to wear numbers 1 through 49, and as well as 80 through 89. And originally, I thought that there was going to be a lot of players changing their numbers and changing their jerseys and all that, but the NFL threw a kind of wrench in those plans, I think, for a lot of players. So not only do you have to buy out the inventory of your previous jersey. So I know for one instance, Dalvin Cook was going to switch to number 4, the number he wore in college. Well, after they announced that rule, he found out he would have to pay $1.5 million to buy out the inventory, and he said, no thanks, I will stick to 33. Now, when it was reported that the players would have to buy out the inventory, it was stated that if they wanted to change it this year, so who knows beyond this year what that might look like. But I don't think you'll see a lot of movement as far as the players go for this upcoming season, as far as players switching jerseys. And I do have one player out there, a certain quarterback that's won 7 Super Bowls and looking for 8 this upcoming year, who is not happy with this announcement. So let's just go ahead and go straight to Instagram of the one and only Tom Brady. He sent out 2 different Instagram stories, and like I said, he's not happy with this. So his first Instagram story says, "Good luck trying to block the right people now. Going to make for a lot of bad football." And I just find it hilarious that this is something that has Tom Brady so worked up. And it was hilarious after this post, but then he follows it up with just dumb in all capital letters. And he says, "Why not let linemen wear whatever numbers they want to? Why have numbers at all? Just have colored jerseys. Why not wear the same number? Dumb." And then he tags the NFL account, NFLPA account. And I think the last thing that anybody wants to see is Tom Brady, playing. I think a lot of people want him to retire at this point. But another thing is, this will probably be something, as petty as Tom Brady is, this is something that he'll use as motivation this upcoming year to chase number 8. So we'll see kind of, how that works out, and the player movement, how many players do end up switching jerseys and buying out their inventory. Now, that's all I have for you. Like I said, the NFL draft is next Thursday, so I should have a show at the beginning of next week just kind of looking at some different scenarios for the Dallas Cowboys. But until then, I'm out of here. Salute.